Hello, family and friends. Welcome to another episode of Mama Bear's Kitchen. Today, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to do a family favorite. This is something I grew up with as a young girl, pickled green beans. And there's a lot of probiotic benefits to fermented foods. And it actually detoxes your body. It helps with a lot of probiotic in the gut and a lot of other superficial benefits that I'm going to post a chart on inside of this film clip that will show you. And so I'm going to start here a little bit with a little details about how to prepare your cans, your jars essentially. Now I'm using a smaller jar only because for some reason when I went in to pick up cans, they were all sold out of the big ones that I'd like to have gotten. Normally I try to get big jars that would fit the sizes of my green beans, which are pretty good size, fresh green beans. But I'm going to be sticking with a little bit smaller jar, and we're going to be cutting those green beans down to fit inside. So a little bit that is really important for you guys, when you're getting ready to prepare your jars, you want to wash them. Get them out of that packaging, pop the lids off of them, and I always put about 4 tablespoons of bleach in my soapy water, and then I essentially wash these up, and before I ever put any food into them, I let them set and air dry, and before they go into the counter, they're completely ready to go. So let's get started and show you guys how to make the magic happen with pickled green beans. This will be one of your family's favorite too, and so healthy and good for you. When I was a young girl, my grandmother and my grandfather owned a tobacco farm in Louisville, Kentucky, of all places. And every morning I would wake up, and my grandmother, when I would come down the stairs, she would be cooking these big, beautiful meals. And sometimes their meals would start really early in the morning. They would start doing their meals, I would say she'd start cooking around 4 a.m. The ranch hands would come in right about sunrise, and the cattle would be fed. The chicken coop would be fed. There would be, I guess they'd be loading up the tractors. I'm not really sure what all they did because I was a kid then. But when I would come downstairs, we always woke up to the most incredible smell of bacon. My grandmother would be cooking fresh bacon. And in the process of cooking that fresh bacon, she would be cooking eggs and pancakes and the food that you wouldn't have even imagined. And I remember I would come down the stairs early in the morning, and there would be multiple boxes of cereal on this big, long ranch table. And she would be preparing a turkey. Sometimes she'd be preparing a chicken, maybe a roast even. It almost felt like sometimes that she was cooking, oftentimes Mamaw Shellman was cooking these huge meals that would sometimes seem like a Thanksgiving dinner to all of us most of the time. It was really an amazing feeling as a young girl to wake up, and she would set me down at the table, and we could pick fresh biscuits from the table and have fresh gravy, whatever we wanted. It was almost like being at, I don't know, I would say a modern day hotel where you come down and there's so much food to pick from because it's a continental breakfast. And she would have these big, beautiful breakfasts ready for the ranch hands. And one by one, they would come in and they would sit down. They would enjoy a little bit of food to eat. And then they would get back up and they would go back outside and they would work until about noon. But when I finished my breakfast every morning, I would go and I would get dressed after that, and I would make my bed, and always have to clear out the lightning bugs. Some people won't know what that is, but some people will. But my grandmother every night would put lightning bugs in a jar by our bed for night lights, and we would lay asleep at night watching those lightning bugs in our room with the window open and the crisp air coming through. So we would clean the bedroom up, get dressed, come back downstairs. When I came back downstairs, my job was always to help her either pick the green beans and snap them, or go to the garden and help her load 2 or 3 baskets. We'd have these big baskets that we would load the fresh vegetables in. And I would come back inside and I would help her wash them and prepare them. Or I would go to the chicken coop and I would gather up dozens of new eggs and I would bring those eggs in. And once I was done with my chore of doing the green beans, then I was actually able to go and play for a little while on the farm. Growing up as a young girl on that farm was probably one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. And I can honestly say that the skills that she taught me during that time of my life have stayed with me. Breaking green beans, can you believe that? And so now I'm able to pass some of this gift on to all of you. As Mama is not with us anymore, she is certainly with me in spirit, and I'm able to remember the beautiful benefits that she gave me from being able to learn how to can my own food. Down her basement, we would go down and she would have a year, maybe 2 years worth of vegetables and canned fermented foods that were made to last in her basement. And it was always a wonderful feeling that when she was preparing the ranch hand's food, we could always come upstairs with whatever we needed in hand, and it was pure and it was grown right there at the farm. Let's continue to show you how to make these green beans. Once you've done picked them and washed them, I'm going to show you how to get them going. All right, so now that we have our green beans prepared, the way that you prepare these is you're going to snap the ends off of both of your green beans. And I've broken these green beans in half so that they will fit in my smaller jars. So another thing that is really super important when you're working with this recipe, I want you to make sure that you're using bottled or filtered water. Oftentimes the chlorine and the chemicals that are inside of our tap water will mess with the fermentation process. So we want to make sure that we keep things as sterile as possible when they're going into the jar, and that we keep as many chemicals outside of our diet as possible. Next, we're going to be working on filling each of these green beans straight up and down inside of the jars. And you want to pack in as many as you can, getting them vertical inside the jars. So I'm just going to keep loading these in here. And then once we're done with this, we'll be pouring the brine on top of these, putting the lids on the jars, and then we will start the sealing process inside of the canner. If you get a green bean that's not going to fit in your jar, because you got smaller jars like me, just snap it in half, stick it down inside. All right, so now that we've got our green beans packed inside of our jars, I have gone ahead and I've pulled some fresh garlic from my garden. And I also have some fresh dill from my garden here. Dill will always cut and do really well if you will place it in the freezer, believe it or not. This will set up for about 2 weeks inside of the fridge. So what I like to do is I actually like to put a little bit of a sprig of dill inside of each of the jars to help with the dilling process. And it makes it so much more natural. So just a little bit of dill. And then I'm going to crack a fresh sprig of garlic inside of each jar here. Just knock it right off inside. Okay, now that we've gotten the dill, we've gotten the garlic, which is super good benefits for your health, and the green beans are washed and they're canned beautifully inside of the jar, I have now got my brine ready to go. Now, I recommended using the filtered water. It's highly important that you use filtered. And if you really want to make your life easy, and I'm trying to make my life easy today because you can hear my kids in the background, which is why we call this Mama Bear's Kitchen, I recommend this brand of pickling salt. It's actually by Mrs. Wages is who it's by. And this brand of pickling salt is really good. It makes about 7 quarts of canning. So you could turn around and use this brine if you want to do pickles, you want to do some of your green beans, if you even wanted to pickle a few other things, you could use it. Right now I do have about 7 cups of water inside my brine. I also put about 3 cups of white distilled vinegar, which is very important. And I've got about a pound, this filled about a pound of green beans to be pickled. So I'm gonna pour this over now, and we're gonna get the lids on it and get it into the canner for about 10-15 minutes. And you're gonna wanna fill it right at almost to the top. We don't want there to be a ton of air. So we wanna be able to get that out. Now, if you do like a little bit of a kick to these, you can add some red pepper flakes to this brine, or inside of your jar, rather, not to the brine. If you want to have more brine for other things, you can add some red pepper flakes, and that will actually give these a bit of a spicy kick, which makes them really wonderful. So normally I would do about 2 pounds of green beans, but for the sake of time today, I'm only doing 7 little jars here, which was a full pound. So with the way I broke these up. Okay, now we've got them all filled. Let's get the lids on and get them in the canner. All right, so we're getting the lids on tight. Do make sure when you're putting your lids on that there's nothing on the rim. Make sure that your rims have a good seal on both, all the way around, and that there's nothing stopping or hindering the seal. Let's get them into the canner. Make sure you add about a gallon of water. You want to fill the water to about here over the cans, about 1 inch over the cans. So do make sure you add water to the pressure cooker. And now we're going to let it go for a solid 15 minutes under pressure. Now we wait and see. We have some really good pressure going right now on our steamer, and I'm getting ready right now to release. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and release this now by just taking my hot pad here, and I'm just going to get it right off. All right. And you can tell that steam is really going there. So I'm just standing here right now, waiting for the pressure to come off. One note about canning that I think is highly important is that you can see the steam coming off of this really well. Smells amazing in here right now. The pressure is completely off when this pressure valve is down. Never, ever try to open your canner unless this has gone all the way flat and your steam has gone completely flat. You don't want to do that because it can explode. So it's highly important that the pressure canner remains sealed until all the pressure and the steam has completely released off of it. So I tried to catch it. I just heard it starting to click, and it gives me a clicking sound and it drops. So now that the pressure is completely off of it, we can open it up and see what it looks like on the inside. And I had to use both hands because it's very hot still. But just like that, you can see there's quite a bit of water left in here. So let's start pulling them out. I highly recommend these can grabbers. It's made by Ball. And as you can see, the green beans have kind of cooked a little and they've come to the top, but they're down inside of that brine and they're looking really lovely. So we're going to set them here and keep pulling them out. They will settle These will honestly settle as the heat goes down. As you can see here, they're nicely bubbling. So the green beans actually get a little bit cooked. And you can hear that popping sound. That was one of the cans setting and taking the air out of itself completely. All right, and we're gonna make sure that you can hear those popping sounds. That is the cans sealing. I'm gonna make sure all the lids are on really tight so that nothing leaks out. And then I've got another set here ready to go in. Yep, you hear them? You can hear that popping sound. That's the can setting. So I'm gonna take a rag and wipe these down. And I'm gonna go ahead and set these back down inside the canner in the water. No need to add fresh water. There we go. This is another pound, so I've done 2 pounds of green beans here. And I have a bigger can. This is the normal size cans that I normally do. I had one left over and saved myself some time. I went ahead and put them in. Oh, did you hear that? That was another can setting up. That's a good sign. They will sometimes do that inside the counter, and they'll sometimes do that outside the counter, just depending. Sounding good. Okay, look at that. They're bubbling. They're just getting to that point of being just about done. Now, one of the things I should mention is that when these have cooled down, you're going to want to check the tops. And if you could push the top in, and if it makes a clicky button noise, you're going to want to reseal these. If it comes out of your canner, and if you have a situation where they're not sealed down, make sure and check your lids, screw them on tighter, and you can flip them upside down, leave them for maybe 3-4 minutes, flip them back, and it should go ahead and seal them tightly. And so these right here are all down. There's no give back on the buttons, so I know they're sealed. Now, these will need to set for about 3 weeks before you open them and eat them, to give them time to really pickle in the brine. And within that about time frame, you will have a really wonderful, crisp, fresh snack to enjoy. And there you have it. We have pickled green beans on the counter ready to go into storage. They have about a year shelf life, and they're not going to last that long. I can guarantee you guys they're going to go really fast. This is one of our family favorites. We oftentimes will take these pickled green beans, and we will put them in the fridge and chill them down the night before, throw them in a backpack. And when we're on our hikes, we actually will open up that jar, and we have this nice, crunchy, fresh snack on our hikes. And even furthermore, a better benefit is the brine that we use for these pickled green beans is a pickle juice brine, essentially. And the really good thing is that a lot of people don't understand or know that pickle juice is an incredibly good recovery drink. Oftentimes, people who are athletes that have got muscle aches and cramps often will drink pickle juice to help their body to recuperate faster. It's got a lot of minerals, and it's got a lot of salts and balances that help rehydrate you faster than most sugary drinks. I would say probably something like Gatorades or something. Oftentimes when we're out doing our hikes and we're eating our green beans, we'll drink the pickle juice afterwards, and it helps us to recover when we're on our hikes. So that concludes another episode of Mama Bear's Kitchen. I want to say thank you to all of you guys for jumping by and supporting me. Don't forget to hit the click button and subscribe down below. Tell your friends about the things you're learning here. And next week, come on back. I'm going to be showing you guys how to make a tincture that is supposed to have some health benefits to help increase immunity systems. And so I figure with COVID-19 going on, we should probably try everything we can through diet and exercise and healthy living to help our bodies be able to fight off this infection and these things that are going on around us and keep our immunity system strong. So come on back next week, pick yourself up some 80 proof to 100 proof vodka, because I'm going to show you guys exactly what you need to do to have a little something on the side. Definitely make you feel better about your health and where you might be trying to go with it. Have a great day, and thanks so much for coming by Mama Bear's Kitchen. Bye now.